They gave my golden boy brother $150,000 for a house, but when I asked for a modest loan, they labeled me a failure, so I disappeared. I cut contact completely. 2 years passed. In that time, the project they once mocked exploded online, racking up millions of views. When they finally realized what I'd built, they showed up uninvited at my launch party. My brother demanded to know what he was owed. I only said, "I understand, Mom." Then I ended the call. I didn't cry. I didn't hurl my phone across the room. I didn't scream or collapse or rage. I stayed exactly where I was, sitting in the quiet of my cramped rental garage, listening to the faint electrical hum of the fluorescent light buzzing above me, and I felt nothing at all. Just a sharp, clean stillness, the kind of clarity that comes when a long sickness finally lifts. The illusion was gone, completely shattered. I wasn't a daughter to them, I was a number. A line on a spreadsheet, an asset to be used or ignored. Christopher, the real investment, walked away with $150,000. I opened my laptop. It was old. The hinge wobbled when I lifted the screen. But it belonged to me. I'd bought it myself with the paycheck from my first real mechanic job. I logged into my bank account. There was something they never knew. Something I'd never once admitted out loud. For the past 2 years, I'd been covering the second mortgage on their house. It started during one of my father's so-called temporary money problems. He promised it would only be for 6 months, just enough to get them through a rough patch. That was 24 months ago. Every single month since then, $1,200 had been automatically pulled from my account and sent to theirs. I survived on instant noodles and cheap coffee so they could stay in their 4-bedroom home. The same home my failed career apparently didn't deserve a place in. I found the payment in the system, right there on the screen, monthly family support. That was the label I'd given it. Seeing it now made my stomach turn. My cursor hovered over the cancel button. This was the moment I was supposed to hesitate, right? The moment where guilt kicks in. Where I remind myself that they're still family. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. Sometimes family isn't a bond, sometimes it's a cage. We're raised to believe that cutting off blood is unforgivable. That loyalty means enduring endless pain, swallowing disrespect, sacrificing yourself over and over. I was done with that lie. This wasn't a fiery, impulsive act of revenge. It was calm, surgical, necessary, an amputation. You don't heal while you're still attached to what's poisoning you. This wasn't about abandoning them. It was about finally choosing not to abandon myself. I clicked the mouse. A small confirmation window appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment? I clicked confirm. Then I picked up my phone. I opened my message thread with my mother, Jennifer. I typed 10 words, payment canceled. Don't contact me again. I hit send, then I blocked her number. Then my father, Michael, then my brother, Christopher. I shut the laptop, stood up, and for the first time in 28 years, I could breathe freely. That click was the coldest, most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. You might be thinking, that's harsh, Emma. How could you cut off your parents over money? But that click was never about the money. It was about the receipts. It was the final calculation of what it cost to be the other child. My entire life, I was the black sheep. Christopher was the golden one. He was destined for finance, for status, for the kind of life that photographs well on Christmas cards. I was the one who got dirty, the one who loved welding torches more than wedding plans. I worked with my hands, not my image. I was bad at playing their game. I can still picture that moment 2 years ago, sitting in their spotless beige living room. I'd just secured my first major auto body contract. My hydraulic lift was on its last legs, barely holding. I had a plan laid out, spreadsheets and projections ready. All I needed was a cosigner for a $20,000 business loan. My father, Michael, laughed, actually laughed. $20,000, he said, eyes never leaving his newspaper. Emma, that's a lot of money to waste on a hobby. A hobby. I was working 60-hour weeks, rebuilding engines from scrap, but to him it was just a phase. 6 months later, Christopher blew $25,000 on reckless stock market bets. My mother, Jennifer, called me sobbing. Your brother is devastated, honey. We have to help him. We need to make this go away. And just like that, it wasn't a question. It was an expectation. I drained my savings. The money meant for my lift vanished overnight to clean up the golden child's mess. I became the family's silent investor, the invisible producer behind Christopher's success. The most disturbing part wasn't even what they did, it was how effortless it was for them. That's what normalized cruelty looks like, when favoritism runs so deep it feels natural, when injustice becomes routine. They didn't think of themselves as cruel. In their minds, they were supporting the good investment and pulling resources from the utility account me. They'd turned favoritism into a household budget. And I was the expense they assumed would always pay itself. The silence lasted exactly 12 hours. Then the messages started. My mother was first. You've created a disaster. Your father is heartbroken. You need to call him and apologize right now. Apologize, not can we talk, not did we hurt you. Just fix the mess you caused by reacting to the mess we caused. I didn't reply. An hour later, my father went public. A cousin sent me the screenshot, a photo of him and Christopher, arms around each other, smiling. The caption read, "It's sad when children forget the sacrifices you made for them. Some people are just ungrateful, ungrateful." The man I'd secretly paid $1,200 a month for was now broadcasting that word to the world. He didn't want the truth. He wanted control of the narrative. Then Christopher chimed in. "Emma, you're overreacting. Are you really going to let them lose the house because your feelings are hurt? Mom's crying. Just apologize so we can all move on, so we can all move on." That sentence cracked everything open. Their plan was simple, make me the problem. My reaction was the inconvenience, not their decades of favoritism. My boundaries were offensive, not their lack of them. They weren't angry because they hurt me. They were angry because their ATM stopped working. They assumed I'd cave. That I'd come back begging, flip the payment back on just to end the pressure. I looked at my mother's demand, my father's post, my brother's message, and I put my phone on silent. They thought it was an argument. They didn't realize it was a declaration of independence. Their attacks didn't weaken me. They confirmed everything. I decided to take that $1,200 a month, my so-called ungrateful tax, and invest it in the only person who'd ever given me a real return, myself. I'd always had a dream. My mechanic work, my metal art, the hobby my father mocked. I wanted a mobile studio, a tiny home on wheels, something entirely mine, built by my own hands. 2 days later, I found it rotting in a scrapyard outside Austin, an old 40-foot school bus. Gutted, rusted, windows smashed, covered in bird droppings. It was perfect. It looked exactly how I felt. The owner wanted $8,000. I paid him cash from my savings. My boyfriend, Jonathan, thought I'd lost my mind. He's a carpenter obsessed with clean lines and perfect joints. He stared at the bus and said, "Emma, that thing is a tetanus shot waiting to happen." I ran my hand over the cold, flaking metal. "We're calling it the Phoenix Project." He smiled. He understood, rising from scrap, and that's what we did. But I wasn't just building a home, I was building proof. I set up my phone and recorded everything. Grinding rust, welding new supports, cutting steel, Jonathan framing walls, crafting cabinets with surgical precision, the mistakes, the setbacks. The split knuckles, the nights we worked until 2 a.m, covered in grease and sawdust, too exhausted to speak. I posted the videos online, not for attention, just to document the process. Then something strange happened. People watched. The first clip, me cutting a window opening with a plasma cutter, hit 1,000 views, then 10,000. Then a video of me welding a custom bike rack onto the back bumper, a piece of art really with intricate metal swirls. It went viral. A blog picked it up, then another. People weren't just watching a build. They were watching a woman who knew her way around a heavy-duty workshop. My skills, the very things my family dismissed as a hobby, were fascinating to people. Sponsors started reaching out. A solar company offered free panels. A composite decking company sent materials for our rooftop deck. The $70,000 build was suddenly being funded by people who saw value in what I was doing. And then the email came. A design firm from California. They'd seen my welding work on the Phoenix build. They wanted to commission me to create a custom-built $30,000 mobile pop-up shop for one of their clients. $30,000. The bank my family invested in wouldn't even consider loaning me $20,000. I signed the contract and I realized the Phoenix Project wasn't just a home. It was my resume. It was my proof, and I was just getting started. The success from the Phoenix Project was fast and overwhelming. That $30,000 commission led to 2 others. Suddenly, I wasn't just a mechanic with a hobby. I was an in-demand designer and fabricator. The schoolie was becoming a legitimate business, but the most significant call didn't come from a client. It came from a local Austin credit union, a smaller community-focused bank, the kind of place that prided itself on supporting local businesses. They wanted to talk about my work. I met with the branch manager, a man named David. He had my Instagram feed pulled up on his monitor when I walked in. "This is incredible work, Emma," he said, genuinely impressed. "Your engagement numbers are off the charts. We're looking to partner with local creators, and frankly, you're the most interesting entrepreneur we've seen in this city all year." We talked for an hour. He loved my business plan. He loved my projections. Then he frowned, looking at his screen. "I was looking over your business profile before you came in," he said. "I saw you applied for a small business loan about 2 years ago, $20,000 at big bank name. It says it was rejected." "Yeah," I said, the old sting returning. "They said I was too high risk. Not enough collateral, not enough proven income." It was demoralizing. David looked confused. "That's odd. Based on the credit profile I'm seeing here, that should have been an easy approval even back then. Your numbers were solid." He started typing. His curiosity clearly piqued. "We share some regional data. I just want to see, what is it?" "Well, this is interesting. It looks like your father Michael and your brother Christopher opened a major investment portfolio with that same bank right around the time your loan was denied." A cold feeling, sharp and metallic, crept up my spine. "What kind of portfolio?" David kept clicking, reading from his screen. "A big one. Ah, here it is. It wasn't just a standard deposit. Your brother's $150,000 investment was a founder's tier buy-in." He turned the monitor to face me. "That level of investment came with perks. It looks like it granted your brother Christopher a seat on the bank's local small business loan advisory board." I stared at the words, but my brain couldn't assemble them. Advisory board. David nodded, still oblivious to the bomb he just detonated. "Yeah, they're the ones who give the final recommendation on loans under $50,000, just like yours." He finally looked up at my face and his professional smile faltered. "Emma, are you okay?" I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just that they gave him the money. It wasn't just that they refused to help me. They had taken their money, their $150,000 gift, and used it to buy my brother a seat at the very table where he could personally officially stamp "rejected" on my dreams. It wasn't neglect. It wasn't favoritism. This was complicity. They hadn't just watched me fail, they had actively invested in it. The Phoenix was finally done. We threw a launch party, not at my parents' house, but right there on the land Jonathan and I had leased in the hill country. We invited everyone who had helped: the welding suppliers, the solar company, the clients who'd signed on, and the small community of builders and creators who had followed the project online. The atmosphere was incredible. Music was playing. People were touring the schoolie in awe, taking pictures, sharing ideas. It wasn't a party about money or status. It was a celebration of making something. I was in the middle of explaining our rainwater collection system when I saw them. My family, all three of them, Michael, Jennifer, and Christopher, standing at the edge of the clearing, completely uninvited. They weren't smiling. They looked like they were at a funeral. Christopher marched right up to me, his face red and tight. "You need to shut this down," he said, his voice low and furious. "Excuse me." "This entire circus," he spat, gesturing at the party at the bus, "at my life. You're making a fool of the family. You need to take those videos down now." My mother Jennifer was right behind him, her eyes darting around nervously. "Emma, please," she whispered. "People are talking, that bank situation. You've humiliated your brother. You've humiliated us." Humiliated? I almost laughed. I was the one who was rejected. I was the one who was lied to. "You were supposed to be rejected." Christopher burst out. "You're not a businesswoman, Emma. You're a hobbyist. You're making us a laughingstock." He was actually yelling now. The music seemed to fade, and the people closest to us went quiet, turning to look. This was it. The confrontation they'd wanted. But before I could even respond, a woman with a press badge and a microphone pushed her way through the small crowd. Emma, right. "Hi, I'm Sarah from the Austin Business Journal. We are obsessed with this project." She was beaming, completely oblivious to the family drama imploding next to her. She didn't even look at Christopher. "We just have to know," she gushed. "Is it true you built this entire masterpiece for under $70,000? Our readers are dying to know how you did it." I looked at my brother's furious, trembling face. I looked at my mother's panicked expression. I looked at my father, silent and defeated in the background. They all stood there frozen, waiting for my response, waiting for the fight. I turned away from them, giving my full, undivided attention to the reporter and her camera. I smiled. "Yes, it is," I said, my voice clear and bright. "It's amazing what you can build when you finally stop investing in people who are actively investing in your failure." I didn't look back to see their faces. I just walked the reporter over to the Phoenix, leaving my family standing there in the middle of my party, completely invisible. the fallout was fast. My quote, "the investing in your failure" line ended up in the Business Journal. It was the line everyone picked up. The story of the schoolie built from spite went viral, but this time it had context. The bank, seeing the public relations nightmare unfolding, quietly removed Christopher from their advisory board. His reputation in the Austin finance world was gone. My parents, they couldn't cover the second mortgage. That $1,200 a month I'd been paying, it was the difference between keeping the house and losing it. 2 months after my launch party, the foreclosure notice went up. They lost the house. The end wasn't loud or triumphant. It was just quiet. The final scene. It wasn't me watching their lives burn down. It was me sitting in the driver's seat of the Phoenix Jonathan beside me. The sun was setting over the Texas Hill Country as we drove away from the city toward the land we'd leased. I was driving my house, my business, my future. A future I built myself literally from the scrap iron they left behind. People talk a lot about revenge. They focus on the past, on tearing down what hurt them, but that's not real justice. That's just balancing a ledger of pain. I learned that true victory isn't about destruction, it's about creation. It's the justice of the sewer. My real win wasn't watching their world collapse. It was in sharing my process. It was in every video of me welding, every post about Jonathan's carpentry. Every time someone commented, "I didn't know I could do this too." By building my own freedom, I sowed seeds of inspiration, giving thousands of other people the courage to build theirs. That's the ultimate victory, not focusing on their ending, but creating a new beginning for myself and for others. What's your story? Have you ever had to build your own success from the ashes? Share your story in the comments below, and if this story resonated with you, please share it with someone else.